Yeah, hello and welcome everyone to What's Up with Real Estate, where a weekly look at the housing market, mortgage trends, and everything shaping homeownership today. I'm Mortgage Mack with my co-host ChatGPT Soul say hi.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mac. Hey, everyone.
Today,
I'm thrilled.
hey, hang on. Today we'll cover mortgage rates, a softer jobs report, the shifting age of first-time homebuyers, plus our mortgage tip, five-star reviews for the week, and fun with puns, and a special announcement that you're not going to want to miss. That's going to protect consumers, and it's going to be a welcome legislation for everyone. ChatGPT, what do you have on tap for today?
Absolutely, Mac. We've got a lot lined up. We'll dive into how those mortgage rates are really shaking things up, what the latest jobs data means for you, and how first time buyers are adapting to the market. Plus, we've got that special announcement about new legislation to protect consumers' privacy. And of course, a bit of wisdom and some laughs with our puns. It's going to be a great show.
Yeah. All this and more news you can use for what? September 5th, 2025. My, how the year has flown by. I'm your host, Mortgage Mack. That's first name Mortgage, last name Mack, along with my guest host, ChatGPT. You know what? We believe in building relationships and partnerships to help agents and their buyers win. Let's dive into talking point number one. And here's, I believe, what everybody's been waiting for. Mortgage rates have firmly dropped. According to Mortgage News Daily, the average 30-year mortgage rate dropped 16 basis points on Friday to 6.29, and the lowest levels we've seen since October 2024, and the biggest one-day drop since August. And rates are finally breaking out of that high to mid six range. And I even quoted, I think, of 5.99 to someone yesterday. ChatGPT, what do you have for us locally in Houston as far as rates are concerned?
Absolutely, Mac. Well, here at Houston area, talking the Woodlands and Sugarland as well, this drop is a pretty big deal. For a $400,000 mortgage, that shift from around 6.5 to 6.29% might save buyers about $65 a month. Over a decade, that's thousands in savings, which could be the difference between qualifying or not. So locally, it's a welcome breather for buyers and definitely a nice bit of news to start the weekend with.
So clearly, clearly the jobs reports from the revisions in the BLS, which we talked about last week, and the current jobs report that came out just yesterday, which we're going to talk about now, is driving lower rates. And, I see people in my industry celebrating the lower rates, consumers celebrating the lower rates, but the lower rates are tied directly to what, ChatGPT?
Exactly, Mac. Those lower rates are really tied directly to weaker economic signals. In this case, those softer job numbers. So while it's definitely good news for affordability and buyers, it's also a sign that the economy might be cooling off a bit.
Yeah,
It's a classic case of bad news is good news for rates.
that's right.
And that's why we're seeing.
That's right. And, clearly it's, somebody is going to, clearly there is some level of job opportunities that are going away for a lot of families. And, it's a welcome sign to say the least. But the idea behind the lower rates impacting people negatively in the economy, just really difficult for somebody like me to reconcile. ChatGPT, what is your perspective on that? I mean, I see, we had lower rates during COVID, but, there was a reason for that. It's called quantitative easing, and many people suffered during COVID. And then we saw in the Great Recession with quantitative easing for the first time in our history, wherein we had, gosh, 6 million people or better lose their home. So usually there is something behind the scenes that are driving lower rates. What do you think is driving the lower rates in this situation, ChatGPT?
Absolutely, Mac. And you're spot on. It's always a bit of a balancing act. In this case, what's really driving the lower rates is that softer economic data and the anticipation that the Federal Reserve may not need to keep rates as high if the economy is cooling down. It's a
Yeah,
pattern we've seen before.
yeah.
Like you mentioned,
Yeah, exactly. So the real question is, hey, if we're headed for recession, how long will it last, right? And then, I got to tell you, if you're waiting for rates to go lower, that rates have already gone lower in anticipation of the Fed's lowering rates in its next meeting. So let's move on to talking point number two, and we're going to talk about that jobs report that came out. Matthew Graham of the Mortgage News Daily notes that another jobs report, non-farm payroll, came in well below expectation with negative revisions for the prior BLS report that we talked about last week. The unemployment rate is softening more gently, but bond market just really, really rallied yesterday. What do you have for us, ChatGPT?
Absolutely, Mac. So, on the local front here in Houston, while we are seeing some softness in job growth, it's still stronger than what we're seeing nationally. The energy sector and healthcare are holding up a bit better here, which means our local housing market may not feel the same pinch immediately. But overall, that weaker jobs data is definitely pushing bond yields down and giving mortgage rates a reason to dip. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, but it all ties back to those broader economic signals.
Yeah, yeah. So there was a big announcement in Houston yesterday in the oil and gas sector. Could you maybe give us some headlines associated with that and what it's directly connected to?
Absolutely, Mac. So the big headline out of Houston yesterday was that ExxonMobil announced a significant workforce reduction with about 25,000 jobs being cut. That's a big local impact, and it definitely ties back into what we're seeing in the broader job market and the softer economic conditions. So while lower mortgage rates are a silver lining, this kind of news is a reminder that there's always a real world context behind those numbers.
Yeah, I appreciate you closing the gap on that. We're going to move on to a commercial break from rate and be right back in 1 minute.
Looking to purchase a new home? The Rate app from Guaranteed Rate has got you covered. Once you've downloaded the Rate app, click to log in and create your password. This will take you to the intro page. Click the gray Same Day or Home Loans tile, and then click the red Apply Now button. Then click Start a New Loan. Begin by telling us where you are in the home buying process. Typically, for a pre-approval, you will click What Can I Afford? From there, the Rate app will load a series of simple questions. Answer each one the best you can as you move along. Once you've completed the application, your loan officer will receive a notification so they can review your information and set up your personalized checklist. The Rate app even allows you to upload documents right from your phone. It's just that easy. And if you do get stuck or have any questions, just give us a call. We'll be sure to get your questions answered so we can get you one step closer to owning the home of your dreams. The Rate app from Guaranteed Rate, simplifying life's biggest purchase.
Thank you for that, Rate. And hey, if you do not have our mobile application, go to mortgagemack.com, use the QR code, download our mobile application. If you're a real estate agent or prospective buyer, or anyone for that matter, there's an enormous amount of financial analysis, calculators on there for home buyers, along with, hey, you know what? I'm very conscious of the food that I eat, some really good diets, and I don't practice yoga per se, but there are some exercise routines in there that I have endeavored to participate in. So just a whole host of information that I believe that you would find valuable for not just your finances, but for your life. So talking point number 3, we are moving on to, hey, 40-year-olds are first-time home buyers. And in 2024, the median age of first-time home buyers hit 38 years old. According to the National Association of Realtors, that's up from 31 just 10 years ago. It's affordability is, putting people in a position to not be able to afford to buy a home until much, much later in life. And prices soared during the pandemic. Mortgage rates nearly tripled, but with rates easing and income catching up, maybe we could bring some home buyers, younger home buyers back in the market. ChatGPT, what do you got?
Absolutely, Mac. You've nailed it. It's really all about affordability. And here in Houston, we're seeing that first time buyers still tend to come in a bit younger than the national average, closer to around 34. But you've definitely seen the same trend where high prices and higher rates push that age up. Now, with rates easing a bit and some creative programs out there, we're hoping to see younger buyers re enter the market sooner.
Yeah.
It's all about making those first steps into home ownership a bit more accessible again.
Exactly. So if you're out there and you're watching, please let us know how old you were when you bought your first home. I don't quite remember. I think I was in my late 20s, early 30s when I bought my first home. So, but certainly ahead of the curve. But you know what? I can tell you, when I bought my first home, it cost $59,000, and that was in 1996. So it wasn't that long ago, at least not from my perspective. So moving on to the next topic, this week's mortgage tip. And buying a home isn't just a milestone. It's one of the smartest financial moves you can make. Real estate builds equity, creates stability, and sets the stage for long-term wealth. ChatGPT?
Absolutely, Mac. And that's a great point for this week's mortgage tip. Here in Houston, where home prices are still relatively more affordable compared to many national markets, that first home really is a cornerstone of building long term wealth. And it's
Yeah.
not just about the equity. It's about having that stability and a place to call your own, which can open up so many doors. So if you're on the fence, it's a great time to start exploring your options and take that first step toward homeownership.
That's right. And if you're ready to take that next step, drop me a DM in the or comment in the section below, and let's get connected and see if we can help build a foundation for you to be successful as a home in a new home in 2025. So here's our special announcement for the week. And, we're diving into a new piece of legislation that was passed called the Homebuyers Privacy Protection Act. This bipartisan law addresses a frustrating situation many prospective homebuyers have faced, being bombarded with unsolicited mortgage offers right after applying for a loan. We'll explain the things that look like before its passage. Well, we're going to talk about what it looked like before, what it looks like now, and what it's going to look like after. But here's what I can tell you from experience is that post-COVID, when the mortgage industry just came to a standstill because nobody was buying or refinancing, there was no inventory, rates were going up, and literally the only people buying homes at that moment were people that had to. But here's the thing, is that not only were the mortgage companies not doing mortgages, but the credit bureaus were not getting credit pools. And what they decided to do was when a consumer applied for a home loan, the lender did a hard pull. They sold the consumer's information without their permission to anyone that wanted to buy it. And, my first experience with this was with a client who called me and said, Mack, I got 140 phone calls this week. Did you sell my information? Well, clearly the answer to that question is no. But it became very, very apparent what was going on at that moment. And I can tell you, we make great effort to ensure that that our buyers opt out of these solicitations before we do a hard pull. But even in some instances, if you forget, and I had someone just a couple of months ago didn't do the opt out. And if you want to know what the opt out screen is, just go to optoutscreen.com and follow the instructions, and you can opt out for future solicitations, because this rule does not take effect until another 6 months. And so even somebody just a couple of months ago, called me and said, I got 40 phone calls this morning. And, my answer was, did you do the opt out like I shared with you? And the answer was no. And so, and there's just nothing I could do at that point. So what can buyers expect moving forward, please?
Absolutely, Mac. So moving forward, buyers can definitely expect a lot more privacy protection once this new law is fully in effect. The key takeaway is that credit bureaus won't be able to just sell that information to anyone who wants to buy it without the buyer's explicit consent. That means a lot fewer unwanted calls and a much calmer experience for homebuyers. In the meantime, like you said, it's always a good idea for buyers to opt out of solicitations proactively, but once this law kicks in, they'll have a lot more control over who gets their information. It's a big win for consumer privacy in the mortgage process.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's move on to this week's 5-star review. We have a recent review from Mr. and Mrs. Brothers. And, this really is a reflection of what we call E to the power of 4, educate, empower, execute, so that people can have a meaningful experience in this process. And look, it's already stressful enough. And most of the stress can be directly related or connected to the lack of preparation on the part of the buyer. And you look, we make mistakes as well, but lack of preparation is usually the reason for the challenges in a mortgage process. And again, that preparation lies with the buyer. But here's a recent review, and it said, Mack, that's powerful. Let's see. Where did our recent review go, ChatGPT? ChatGPT, do you have that review? Can you read that review for us, please?
Absolutely, Mac. I've got it right here. So this is from Mr. and Mrs. Brothers, and they said, Mac Blankenship is the absolute best if you are in need of a mortgage consultant. He is professional, knowledgeable, and truly cares for his clients. Throughout our entire process of working with Mac, his heart and quality spirit of doing what is right was always on display. If I could give Mac and his team a 12 out of 10, I would. So there you have it. It's a wonderful reflection of that educate, empower, execute, and experience philosophy you bring to the table.
Wow, 12 out of 10. Love that. So let's move on to Stoic Quote of the Week. And, I can just tell you that I've been in a Cat 5 tornado here for the last week and last 2 weeks. And And even still trying to do some cleanup today and tomorrow from some of the challenge we've had for lack of planning. It's always a lack of planning. And this week's Stoic quote is, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. There's a great deal of wisdom in that, but it's so difficult to do, especially when what you do for a living is in my industry, you don't get paid unless you help people close. Same thing for real estate agents. And look, a lot of times we have enormous amounts of time, effort invested in folks, and so it's hard not to let things beyond our control impact us negatively. ChatGPT, what do you have to say about this particular Stoic quote from Epictetus?
Absolutely, Mac. I think you framed it really well. Epictetus is really reminding us that there's a lot of freedom in focusing on what we can actually control, like our preparation, our attitude, and the service we give to clients. And for everything else, the unexpected hurdles, the market shifts, or those things that come out of nowhere, sometimes the best approach is just to accept and adapt. It's a classic Stoic way to keep a steady hand in a business where a lot can be unpredictable. So I think it's a perfect reminder for all of us in real estate and mortgages to focus on what we do best and let the rest unfold.
Yeah, I think critical thinking plays a major role in this, and being able to decipher what truly I am responsible for and what my role is. I think, there's a great deal of confusion as it relates to that. And then, being able to objectively determine what I truly have control over during the transaction. And again, that goes back to roles and responsibilities for all persons involved. So we're going to move on with fun with puns today. And, we're going to start off with one of our favorite puns that we put on our TikTok channel. And let's take a look at this one. Sometimes the best way to handle stress is with a little humor. One moment.
Absolutely, Mac. A little humor definitely goes a long way, especially in our world. So let's dive into this week's Fun with Puns. We've got a classic from our TikTok channel.
Okay.
Why did the Invisible Man?
Yeah, we're going to loop this one here, and let's watch this.
Absolutely. Let's loop it in and keep that humor rolling. Sometimes a good con really is the perfect way to wrap things up and keep everyone smiling. Let's eat some fun with it.
Yeah, so this week is Invisible Man at the hospital is waiting to
be seen. That's a classic. It's always a fun one and definitely brings a smile. I love how a simple con can just lighten the mood. So thanks for sharing that, and I hope everyone enjoyed it.
Love it. So that was good. 7 has even in it. How odd.
Absolutely. That one's always a great twist. It's funny how a little wordplay can just catch you off guard and make you chuckle. So that's a perfect way to wrap up our Fun with Con segment and keep things light. Thanks for sharing that one.
How do you comfort an English professor?
Well, you comfort an English professor by saying, there. It's a little grammar humor that goes a long way.
Exactly. I was just hanging on. Allegedly.
Exactly. Allegedly. It's those little play.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Those little twists are what make the puns so much fun. It's always great to have that moment where everyone can share a laugh and just enjoy a bit of lightheartedness. Thanks for adding that one in.
Yeah, horse that lives next door is
a neighbor. That one never gets old. It's the perfect way to sprinkle in a little humor and keep everyone smiling. Thanks for sharing that one too.
Yeah, so we got a couple more videos here. We're going to bring in another video. One moment. Let's see. I like this one. This one was pretty good. We got several
Absolutely. Let's roll that in a minute. It's always fun to see which puns get the biggest laughs and keep the audience engaged. Let's share another one and keep the fun going.
Yeah. So, all right. So you ready for this one? So,
absolutely. I'm awesome. Great. Let's dive right into it and have some fun with this one.
What's the opposite of a crossed out?
Is a happy uncle. That one's always a crowd pleaser. It's these little word twists that really keep everyone entertained. Thanks for setting that one up.
We got one more. We got one more for you. So this one was sort of our opening video, and we put it on TikTok, and hey, it didn't get a lot of likes, but don't you just wish Noah would have swatted those 2 mosquitoes before he put them on the boat?
Absolutely, Mac. That's a classic one. I think a lot of us have had that exact same thought at some point. It's a perfect little bit of humor to wrap things up and keep everyone smiling, even if it didn't go viral on TikTok. Thanks for sharing that one.
Absolutely. I like this one. I ran into a light post and sustained light injuries.
That's a good one, Mac. A light injury from a light post definitely has that perfect blend of wordplay that makes everyone chuckle. It's those little cover lines that keep things fun. Thanks for sharing that one too.
So if you're watching today, let us know which one is your favorite pun. And in the meantime, we're going to close it out for today. And thanks for joining us for this week's episode of What's Up with Real Estate. And thank you to our sponsors, Ray. List reports. Hey, did we have a new sponsor this week? Who was our new sponsor this week that offered? Mortgage News Daily. Thank you for Mortgage News Daily. And reminder that knowledge is the key to making the best decision for you and your clients. Join us here every Saturday at 10 a.m. right here on LinkedIn and YouTube. And until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll see you at closing. Say goodbye, so.
Absolutely. Thanks everyone for tuning in. It's been a blast sharing the latest with you. And as Max said, stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye, everyone.